The last 40 years have been a tremendous time. For a human geneticist, I can't think of a better ride. I used to tell my students that when I went to medical school, we had 48 chromosomes. When I left medical school, we had 46 chromosomes. Things have been changing at a tremendous clip ever since then.
He was born in Philadelphia. His parents were immigrants from the Ukraine. He was always very intelligent. He applied at Harvard and again, with his record, was accepted. Then he got interested in medicine and applied at Harvard Medical School, where he had a very good record.
I think those of us who've had the opportunity to know Charlie for a long time have also been fully aware of how important his wife Lois has been. Charlie was introduced to me by my late wife Sally, who had been a classmate of his at Harvard. Sally and Lois comprised a substantial portion of all the women at Harvard. And Sally, always being very, very truthful, introduced him by pointing out that he was clearly the brightest person in her class. I was at the National Institutes of Health working with Jay Segmiller. Charlie had come to work down the hall with Chris Hanfinson, who was later to receive the Nobel Prize for his creative work in myosin.
His method of teaching was by not teaching. "This is what I want you to do," he said shortly after I arrived in the laboratory, and he then promptly left town and was gone for more than 2 months. It was an important lesson and became the model that I tried to use with my own postdoctoral trainees. And the more that I've thought about it, Arno employed the same strategy himself.
In 1963, we had a patient with a condition known as Werners Syndrome. This was a condition that made people appear prematurely aged. If we somehow could find the nature of this gene, we might understand much more normal aging. He became the first author of a paper that has become the classic paper still now for Werners Syndrome.
Charlie went to UCSF to organize a relatively new group, and with the leadership of Charlie, they developed a phenomenal group there in medical genetics that today is one of the leading groups in the country.
He started training young people who wanted to learn more about medical genetics. Over the years, he must have had at least 100 different fellows.
I think that one of the most outstanding contributions he made was to the basic understanding of mental retardation. And one of the key discoveries that he made at that time was with his wife Lois, who made the first mouse model of the Down syndrome. And that model has been extremely valuable in understanding more about Down syndrome. I think that when you newly diagnose a patient with a profound genetic problem, the parents commonly are overwhelmed.
He tell them that they should treat the child like any other child. He did this in a very sympathetic manner. And that was an important part of the teaching of his fellows.
I think that everybody who's known Charlie Epstein for a long time is very much aware of his national prominence when he was severely injured by the Unabomber. The Unabomber had sent a package to his home in Marin County, and when he opened that package, he was severely injured.
This event got him quite interested in the ethical and social impact on genetics. He wrote a number of important articles pointing out, yes, there may be problems, but they can be overcome.
I don't think he ever spent time looking back on that. He was always looking forward.
Because he was so good in understanding both the laboratory aspects and the ethical aspects, he was elected the president of the scientifically oriented American Society of Human Genetics, the clinically oriented American College of Medical Genetics, and the American Board of Medical Genetics.
He realized how important it would be to get the field of medical genetics under the umbrella of the American Board of Medical Specialties. And it was extremely complicated and involved very many difficult decisions. He worked extremely hard on that, and that was accomplished. That led to our ability to get a seat in the House of Delegates, the American Medical Association, and truly bring medical genetics into the mainstream of American medicine.
There are very few people who combine as many great things as he did.
He and Lois had a wide range of interests and activities, particularly in music and the arts. He was a distinguished scientist, a distinguished academician with enormous accomplishments in which we can all be eternally thankful for Charlie and his good work.
He told Lois, his wife, in the last days that he felt he had a good life.